It was January of 1667 before we made it to my aunt's farm. Snow had fallen onto the forest heavily. We were trudging through the cold snow as my breath puffed through my woolen scarf. The carriage had dropped us off up the hill towards our aunt's land, and we had to hike a few miles to get there. On the way through the months, including Christmas, we spent in small towns and inns, celebrating with what we had, in which Mary had purchased me a new sword, and I had gotten her a new fiddle carved from the finest of mahogany wood. Maria had a board of dolls to entertain herself with. I had on a long blue coat, and it fell to my back legs, and my boots were caked with ice. My shirt was tied tight to keep me warm, while my hat sat atop my head, and my beard that had grown over the last few months, and my mustache that curled at the ends upward tickled my lips and nose while I kept my face warm from the cold. I was holding Mary in one hand while Maria laughed at the snowflakes tumbling from the sky. Mary had a beautiful dress and leather slippers, while Maria was bundled up from head to toe in coat and gloves. Mary and I carried our luggage with use, holding our clothes, food, water, and personal items, while my sword dangled out my belt around my waist.
"Look, Hal! There be angels peeing from the heaven! Crystals!"
She giggled with glee and stuck her tongue out to catch the snowflakes.
"It is very beautiful up there,"
Mary added. I love the wintertime. Much to enjoy and see about the snow, I remarked, in which I preferred it was my favorite season now instead of autumn. I gawped at the surroundings around us. The snow was covering the top of the bones of trees with heavy snow, weighing the branches down as if they struggled to keep the weight, and ice crystals hung under them like wintry spears. The fluffy powdered snow drifted down from the gray sky like a magic winter wonderland, blanketing the world in white. The rolling hills ahead was like lumps of cotton, and I could spot my Aunt Margots' whitewashed cottage lined with ice and frost just ahead of us as we trailed on the worn-down snowy path, the cold prickling at my skin each time we walked, for I was ready to sit by a fire and get warm. The sun reflected off the snow, creating a glittering layer of diamonds. The wind swept past my ears, whispering softly, cold like a gale. I could smell smoke, and I imagined it was the fire wafting from the wintry chimney at my aunt's abode, and I pictured myself being curled up by a roaring fire which warmed my insides. I gazed again as the snow began to tumble out of the sky. My boots crunched under the snow, and my boot filled with cold water which bit my toes. I could see a creek running under a bridge that we crossed, but it was frozen over with a layer of patched ice. Ice trees dotted the distant landscapes ahead, and I could make out the cottage and farmhouse in the back, towering over everything. We finally embraced towards the old wooden door, and I banged on the iron latch. "Damn this weather, 'tis cold," I muttered.
"Do not fret, my love."
Mary purred at my side and rubbed my hands soothingly. "I will warm you up tonight." And I grinned at her meaning as what was to come.
"Can we make snow angels, Hal?"
my sister asked. "Yes, we can." The door slowly creaked open, and out stepped my aunt, who looked tired and weather-beaten. She had a shawl put over her gray hair, and her lolling, wrinkly eyeballs stared back at us. She squinted and shivered from the cold wind outside, and her gray hair was tangled. "Who are you?" she barked. With all the coats and scarves, I presumed she could barely recognize me and Maria. I pulled my scarf down and smiled. "It is us, Aunt Margot. Hal and Maria. I've also brought the love of my life, Mary." My aunt's eyes widened with surprise.
"Oh my, oh yes! I heard of the fire. The Great Fire of London, they called it. Yes, they did. I read it in the London Gazette in October when they were delivering the pamphlets to my house. Oh, Mary, you just seem wonderful, miss. Yes, you are. How you must be a lucky man for a woman to voyage with you this far. You traveled all this way by carriage? How long did it take? Where is your mother and father?"
"The carriage ride was a few months," I mentioned. "The roads were well and the weather fair, Auntie. Of course, I am lucky. I have everything I need right here." I smiled, meeting Mary and Maria.
"My mother and father are dead,"
Maria blurted out. It took my aunt a minute to take the information that her sister had been taken from her, but she held no tears in her eyes. She was a tough woman built to living hard in the farm countryside life. She tied her shawl under her chin, which was laced with black dots.
I am sorry to hear the loss. My sister, Lila, was a wonderful woman indeed. Oh, what am I doing? An old hag rambling about things while her guests stay out in the cold? Come in, please come in. I have English tea in the cauldron cooking and hot stone stew waiting you with the fire. You, Hal, and Mary and Maria, take the room upstairs. You must tell me all what has happened in London, Hal.
You are not a hag, Auntie. You are a savior, I grinned. I let Mary take Maria inside, and when the door opened, I could see a stone hearth crackling away, and the soothing warmth hit my body. A big iron cauldron hung from the stone beams from racks, and a bubbling yellow soup filled with fennel, carrots, and potatoes bubbled. My stomach crawled happily. I then felt a strange feeling, but the one I felt with the creature, a reassuring feeling. But not the one I felt with the creature, but a reassuring feeling, like a guardian angel was watching over me. I slowly looked behind me, and through the blankets of snow at the edge of the forest stood the same deer I had seen the night in the forest after taking down those men. It stared at me with big black watery eyes, licked its lips, and appeared to give me a nod. Its antlers wore a blue vibrant color more like runes that pulsed like a candle flame, and its fur was not brown but white like wintry snow. It puffed cold steam from its wet black nose. Its black hooves stamped the ground. It was the most beautiful stag I've ever seen. Thank you, I thought, and I realized it was my mother and father watching over us. I smiled a little as it walked slowly back into the brush and disappeared. I entered the cottage to find it neatly furnished. A rug of bear fur extended the foyer that was surrounded by armchairs made of wood and silk. A cooker was in the back, broiling a hot fire behind the grate, and I could see in the kitchen's loaves of fat French bread being baked, and the smell was inviting. It was used as a spoon for the soup. The smell from the soup traveled to my nose, and the herbs ruffled my throat with delight. A kettle was whistling on the cooker, and steam puffed through the thin, long nostril of the blue kettle. We dropped our leather bags near the dining table lined with a tablecloth of yellow linen and a white lace over that with angels cut through it. Chairs surrounded the dining table, and along the walls are bookshelves holding old dusty books, paintings, and a long mirror that stretched to the ground. A staircase winded up in the back. We took our seat next to the fire on a long, slender, purple-covered silk couch while Maria played with her toy in front of the fire. Mary gripped my hand and we sat together on the couch as my aunt poured the kettle into a fine china of teacups and brought the tea set bedangled with many cups of sugar cubes, cream, and tiny red velvet cakes. We were starving and dove in.
Sugar? She asked. Oh, and I got the French breads ready to help with the soup when it's ready, my darlings.
Thank you, Auntie Margot, I smiled.
Yes, please,
Mary said, biting through a velvet cake filled with yellow cream, and the sweetness was overwhelming. I gripped the teacup and sipped the black tea and felt my bones thaw and my whole body rejoice in the soothing warmth of the fire and tea. My Aunt Margot drank a few sips and gnawed on a sugar cube, as did Maria, who sucked on it by the fire.
They taste sweet, Auntie Margot.
She laughed and bit into a cube, sprinkles of sugar hitting her chin.
There's plenty more.
She smiled and then turned to us.
How old are you now, Hal? It has been a few years since we last saw each other.
17, miss.
I can just remember when you were a wee lad at the age of 7. Such an adventurous monster, always breaking things, climbing trees, and getting into trouble, but not all the time.
She giggled through her tea. She then asked Mary.
So are you two married?
We both blushed.
Oh, miss, we're not. We've only known each other for 6 months, but perhaps in the future we will be.
And I grinned at her.
Hal is a charming man, but can also be a stubborn one, but
I love him for it. And she rested her hand on my cheek, and I clasped hers.
Oh, I like her, yes I do.
My aunt giggled with delight.
And Mary braids my hair nicely, see?
Maria giggled and swung her blonde curls to where a long, thin braid bounced behind her head to her upper back.
My gracious, Maria, you look just like your mother. Beautiful. I know.
Maria giggled. I took another sip of my black tea, mixing in the sugar cubes and cream before my aunt asked.
So, tell me what happened in London.
My aunt prompted. I faced back to my aunt. Yes, I shall tell you it all. It is quite a long story.